It's a demon, demon, it's a demon, it's a GM, it's a G-man, it's a G-man, it's a DOM, it's a DOM, it's a Dom, it's a Dom, it's a TOM, it's a TOM, it's a Tom, together we are Demon Organized Play. Hey everyone, welcome to my show. I don't know what just happened, and let's just forget that it did. Thank you. Please. And hello. I am the DM for our Wednesday Night Dungeons & Dragons show. I'm your co-host every Tuesday. We sit down and talk about what's going to happen in that show, the issues that are facing us, how I plan to address them. Sometimes we talk about the issues that came up in the previous session. I'm joined here by my co-host and our channel producer extraordinaire, which suggests that there's a channel producer who sucks somewhere out there.
I'm sure
I know who that is.
Yeah.
I meant our channel producer who sucks.
Oh.
Jordan Caves Callerman.
Whoa!
Giphy! Oh, no. Jordan and Megan do yeoman's work. They do far more work than I do, to be honest. Don't tell on me. Hi. We have a couple things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to try and keep it tight because at 4 o'clock this afternoon, I need to be at my wonderful desk in my lovely apartment. I am going to be doing some phone banking for some candidates that I support in the upcoming election. If you are so inclined to make your voice not only heard, but make your presence felt, I would suggest that now is a great time, especially now, to before it gets to be too late, because there's only 28 days left before the election. Go volunteer. Even if you live in a blue state like me, you can do something that helps swing a district someplace else. I'm doing virtual phone banking for Angie Craig in Minnesota 02. They also need help in Minnesota 03, taking down Eric, what's his face? He's another terrible dude in Minnesota. So Minnesota is definitely a swing state. You can still help take back the House if that's your bent. If it's not your bent, I have a hard time squaring your life with what's happening in our country. And that's as much as I need to say about that. Political time over.
Real quick, ! Vote US, and that will pull up how to check if you are registered to vote, and if you're not registered to register to vote, which I believe today may be your last day to register.
It depends upon what state you're in. You were at. So if you live in Minnesota, has same-day voter registration, you can go and get information about when your voter registration... !
Vote US.
Check it out.
There you go. Thank you, Modern Shop. Thanks, DJ Regular.
Thank you so much. So that's the Buzzaloony. That's what's been on my mind since we last sat together.
Yeah, there's a lot.
It's gonna be a tough month.
It's interesting just how having a streaming show that streams regularly. I mean, you don't really realize this with networks, because news is on a ton. There's 24-hour news cycles and things like that. But it's like seeing a live show and being behind the scenes during a live show, especially when there's turmoil going on,
breaking news,
turmoil and breaking news and stuff. It's been very interesting. If you go back and watch, I think the first episode of Hoy Chummer back in our old studio, that was when during the show was when Trump was elected president. And It's interesting how we started the show and then ended the show.
Oh boy.
Just kind of throughout how things have in the last couple of years, how things have gone through, and seeing it happen live and watching it on streams and stuff like that has always been an interesting kind of watching it. By the way, if you hear that...
On a separate note, on a completely separate note.
Completely separate note. Okay,
if you're
politics over.
worried that they are going to demolish our building for making outlandish political statements on the internet, first of all, you don't understand how the internet works.
Yeah, that's kind of how everything's like that.
But secondly, they are literally demolishing the building next door. There was once a building filled with homeless squatters, and now there is a pile of rubble filled with a couple of pieces of heavy construction equipment.
Hopefully no more homo squatters in there.
No,
though.
hopefully
but
they're
there
not.
was an entire car that they didn't even bother to pull out of the building. They just crushed the building around it and then started tearing it apart.
What?
That. Yeah.
That seems like an environmental hazard.
You know, you'd think. I think they just wanted it down. Someone was just like, burn it. And we can't do that.
Ask the questions, you know.
Yeah.
So, sorry to be kind of a killjoy at the top of the show, but it's been weighing a lot on my mind. It's going to continue to weigh out on a lot on my mind. And I want you to know where I'm at and where I'm coming from. So there's that. And also the fact that even if you live someplace like we do in California, you can still make a difference. You can. So I encourage you to go do that.
Hey, Drew.
Today, we are going to talk about the power of suggestion. Maybe we just did.
Maybe we just did. Part of it?
We are going to talk about Plot Radar. Since it came up last week, we're going to walk through Plot Radar. I did a workup of where we're currently at with Plot Radar. I should really put today's date on that, which is 10/9/18. Not many sessions left, Dom.
Oh boy.
Dom, what do we got?
Good boy.
4 left this week?
Yes.
And 3 more?
Mm-hmm. Good boy.
All right, okay.
Our big Halloween finale.
Our big Halloween finale.
Spooky.
We better start thinking about whether we're going to get dressed up or not. I'm going to dress up as a mediocre white man.
Every day.
Every day from now until Halloween. And then finally, actually today we're going to try and have some time for some Q&A, right? So it's been a while since we've just sort of taken your general gaming questions. Sometimes we kind of like, kind of pick some questions up a lot of the way, but oftentimes, given my propensity for holding court and monologuing, you don't get to get a word in edgewise. Well, today that edge is exposing itself, and you can shiv the grimy shaft of your homemade penknife and or dagger or tongue into that edge, and I'll make sure it gets the attention that it deserves.
Oh, man. Woo! Yeah. Look at these campaign coins, guys.
Speaking of campaign coins, their Epic D20 coins are still rolling. Yes. Go over to Kickstarter, search for Epic D20 coin or campaign coins. We featured them last week, and they're funded. They're pushing for stretches.
Yeah.
Get some. We used them last week on the stream. I liked them.
I cannot.
I really like how much thicker they are. I really appreciate, like, not that I don't love these tokens, and they have a nice little heft. Like when you get 3 or 4 of them together, even individually, they feel nice. They feel premium.
Well, you know, the thing that I'll say real quick is that the little ones are great for just coinage, right? For just if you're like trying to emulate the coin of a realm. These are great.
You find 25 gold pieces.
There you go. Ching. But the large D20 tokens are like great for signifying something, you know, for showing, oh, that's inspiration.
They're great
that's
as a token.
So, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I am extra today, Modern Chow. Welcome to it. Throw a question out there. It might come back a little bit bucky. The power of suggestion. So last
I'm a little
week,
bit Cap. He's a little bit bucky.
Oh, my arm hurts. Thanks for the bits, Modern Chow.
Thank you, Modern Chow.
123. 123 bits. I feel like that wasn't random. So last week they journeyed to the cave of the Darrow, and they got in a fight. And the fight ended by Strumthrum casting suggestion spell on the leader, saying, "We can work out a deal. Put down your weapons. We can work out a deal." And even though technically that is not how the spell works, because that Darrow creature did not really speak her language, we just, the common wisdom on, if you don't know a rule, make a ruling and move on. That was applied, right? And in hindsight, I looked it up, and they do have to speak the same language. But who cares, right? It's okay to break that rule.
Yeah.
Like, is it really game-breaking for her to be able to cast suggestion on another intelligent creature? Now, I would say, okay, I would be willing to like put some cracks in that going, like if she was going to cast it on a Mind Flayer, for instance, well, its brain is so alien that it has advantage on the saving throw. That seems fair. If she was going to cast it on a Golem, I'd be like, it doesn't have a mind that makes it suggestible, therefore that spell would not work. Like, I still have room to put some boundaries around it, but we've like just put some cracks in it that who cares? Yeah. Because the truth of the matter is that was the quickest and most efficient and most interesting way to end that combat. Right? It was, it's not, there's plenty of efficient ways to end a combat. Largely involves just like lowering the number of hit points. Sure. Right? Like, oh, you stab him, he's dead. Or the guy voluntarily going, you've killed all of my compatriots. Either he surrenders or he attempts to flee, and then they pick him off as he runs away, right? Neither of those options is particularly interesting. I mean, surrender's not bad, right? Surrender is essentially the same effect, but it's not player driven. Right. It's like the DM decides, okay, this guy's gonna, hand in the towel, which is okay. Like that, especially if a party doesn't have suggestion type of capabilities, or no one like makes I'm gonna make an intimidation check. That's an ideal opportunity to like yes and just go with it, right? But if it's player driven, it's much more interesting to have it switch from a combat encounter to a role playing encounter than if the DM just goes, oh well, this last guy's left. I'm okay. I'll do whatever you want. Not that it's not a good tactic. Like I think more combats should end that way, but then you definitely get into this whole weird situation of they're going to interrogate him. Is it going to go down kind of the cruel path of we're going to torture this guy to get whatever information we want? Sure. Or is it going to get into some sort of really awkward negotiations of, I'll tell you what I know if you let me flee to this, and I promise to, and it turns into this real thing where like players are like, well, you've already surrendered to us, so why don't you just tell us what you want and then we'll kill you? Yeah. It really presents an opportunity for players to show the ugly side of the game rather than in this case, like because he succumbed to the suggestion, they knew that the suggestion would be broken if they attacked him at all. They weren't sure if they could trust him, but it was this interesting suspenseful balance of let's go along with this because it seems to be working, but at the same time he seems to be leading us deeper into danger. Yeah. Right? So I even though it shouldn't have worked, the fact that I ruled that it had a chance, and then the dice, he failed the saving throw, and it did work, actually was a terrific outcome in my opinion. Like looking back on the session. Yeah, well, I mean, I think people often forget that D&D is fluid. There are rules in the book, and they help contain things as best as possible, but even the makers of the game are like, do what makes sense for your table. And I think that always as you're playing, you have to, especially as a DM, you have to kind of gauge how your players are taking information in and are dealing with things. And if a player comes to you with an idea like that, and you don't have a clear thing and you don't have the time to look it up or anything like that, especially on a streamed game, like if we start turning around and looking things up, like especially during a combat, right? It's like, ew. Well, and not only that, but like the arc of the combat was definitely like they'd already dropped five people. There was two left. One of them was the leader. Yeah, So it made dramatic sense. It made narrative sense. And it wasn't that far off base, I think, from the intention of the spell. And yeah, like you said, you can play with it from here on out, but you can also just be like, okay, I made a decision for that, but moving forward, the specs of the spell say that you can't do that. And so, you can change it as you go. But and my advice in that situation, like if we decided, okay, we're actually going to play by the rules as written going forward, if you have this come up in your game, how I would handle this is to talk to the player before the game starts, right? And say, as part of kind of your housekeeping, oh, by the way, I looked it up. It's fine that it worked that way. Like, we're not going to go back and revisit that moment. But going forward, just know that they have to speak. You have to have a common language, or they have to be able to understand you in order to cast that spell. But don't like the alternative. One alternative would be to like spring it on them the next time they cast the spell, and that just turns into like a gotcha moment where the player is like, "Why didn't you tell me before?"
Right. Yeah.
You know, like the best way to like keep your social dynamic healthy at the table is before you get into the game, go, oh, by the way, I looked that up. You are supposed to have a common language. Mm-hmm. Anyway, what else were you going to say?
I was just going to say that spells like suggestion and charm and friend and stuff like that I like those spells because they do provide an opportunity for alternative combat, as it were.
Right.
And so I always... Personally, I feel those should always be looked at a bit differently when they are used in combat, especially with a fairly non-violent character like Strum, mm-hmm. who doesn't have a whole lot of options combatively.
Right.
You know, Havana wants to make a difference in a combat. And if you keep taking away agency by going like, well, that spell doesn't work, that spell doesn't work.
I mean, a lot of times it's just the dice, but
right, yeah, sure, yeah. So there's you again, it's having an awareness of where your players are coming from, what you know the players want to do, and then adjudicating as best as you can with those options. So
I think, you know, there's two pieces to this that really touch upon, you know, some of the core tenets of my DM advice / philosophy stuff, right? Which is, you know, you mentioned you always need to be evaluating the information that players are getting. Mm-hmm. Well, when they have charmed or otherwise sort of like, you know, mind controlled an NPC, specifically like a part of the opposition, that is an ideal way to start conveying information, revealing information about the plot that in a very efficient manner that they wouldn't otherwise get. So you don't have to make a handout or a journal or, you know, whatever. Like, right. They can just tell you. Right. And I think sometimes, I know I as a DM get intimidated because it's like, why wouldn't I just tell them the whole plot? And one thing to keep in mind is that you can, like, one, they can be misinformed, or two, and probably a safer trick is there's always more plot. So the plot, just because they know this piece of the plot, and maybe that's all that you planned, mm-hmm. you're probably still going to have a session or two to, like, create more plot if you want to, or twist the plot where it turns out that guy was the bad guy, but... yeah. He's being blackmailed by the Duke, who's being controlled by the, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So you can, you know, it's almost like the plot is almost like monsters, right? You just have to pull the book out and create more. And as long as it makes sense in part of the, you know, in part of the entirety of the arc, there's always more plot to make. So giving some away isn't that big of a deal. Right. It may feel like you're giving a lot away. Okay. That's fine. A lot of an infinite amount. Not that you're going to have an infinitely long plot, but
you better not.
You know,
that's quite a lot.
Sometimes the best thing that can happen is your plot can get short circuited. Kind of mm-hmm. That's what happened last session. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I want you to keep in mind is this is, I always talk about, like, not necessarily what is the when you're building an encounter, it's what are the consequences of this encounter, and oftentimes that means what can be revealed, or like what are the various outcomes that could lead you different places in the story, right? Whether that's the party defeats the monster and gains some sort of treasure information, the party battles to a stalemate or whatever, you know, whatever it is, like, or they get beaten themselves and they get taken prisoner and slaves and all that kind of stuff, which was something I legitimately toyed with last session, was like, why not get them in a really big fight that's awful and then they get taken captive? Felt a little railroady. I didn't know that I wanted to do it. And then, you know, that was fine. But when they charm an NPC, especially an NPC villain, that allows you to get them involved in different kinds of consequences. Like we saw here, like if they had just killed that guy, Well, then they would probably like explore at a leisurely pace their way through the remaining 5 rooms of the dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
And they would probably not get themselves into a terrible amount of trouble, right?
Right.
Like they'd be able to like deal with a room and then go, do we want to keep going? No, let's go make camp. Do we want to deal with the room? Do we want to keep going? No. So it'd be a very safe way for them to proceed. Really, like that was a better outcome for the party as they kill the guy and then dungeon crawl their way through the rest of the complex. Instead, though, the better consequence for them and the better consequence for me as a GM is they got marched directly to the big bad guy's lair and they saw the horrible like, you know, spawning of the flying, you know, heads and all that kind of stuff, and the demon with the whole clutching the meteor. Great, we went right to the heart of the dungeon. There's still some stuff to explore if they want to. They got a cursory glance at kind of what the layout was, but we are right back in the thick of it. No rest, no chance to recover spells or hit points, any of that kind of stuff. Like it's actually an ideal, like it's the best consequence for me as the GM, right? The question remains like, okay, we just had one kind of like cool set piece fight with the terrain, and I was really happy with how the terrain turned out. I thought it really was fun to play, and the players really seemed engaged by it. So much so that Kyle was like, "That's cool. I'm going to make one of those." I'm like, "Take this one.
Yeah,
I want you to take it home. Use it for something. Please enjoy."
Right.
I do not need that sitting on my bookshelf along with my 60 board games. So we just had a big boss fight. Do we want to have another big boss fight? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I understand the reluctance to let something like suggestion work in a broad way that maybe that we did last game. But it's one of those things, like a great piece of advice that I got about life when I was thinking about moving to Los Angeles was this guy that I worked with who was also a consultant. So he wasn't actually like part of the company. He was just this dude who came in and was like, it was the heyday of the consultant where he was a project manager and he came in and like got, you know, paid zillions of dollars an hour to just basically fill out spreadsheets and go sit in meetings and talk intelligently.
Fun. Yeah,
but anyway, that's what consultants do. I'm not fooled. I used to be one. But he said to me, he's like, walk in the direction of your fears, right? So when you're GMing and you're like, I don't know if I want that to happen, think about why you don't want that to happen. What's really going to happen? What's really going to be revealed that you're afraid of revealing? Because ultimately, players want to find out what's going on. That's the purpose of play.
Right.
All right, so that's where we're at. We broke the rules a little bit, but honestly, it ended to like I think the players felt like, oh, we got a really good result out of this. We short-circuited the combat. He marched us right through a potentially dangerous area, up the chains, up the ledge. Everything's great, and then whoa, this is starting to get creepy.
Yeah.
Whoa, oh no, now it's bad. So best possible result for everyone involved. Even though I was like, when is she gonna charm this guy? I don't know. So something to reflect on next time it comes up in your game. Keep in mind we're gonna talk some Q&A here in about 10 or 15 minutes. So if you have some questions about your game, whether it's D&D or not D&D, whether you're a DM or a player, we're gonna do some freestyle Q&A to round out the rest of the show. But next we're gonna talk about Plot Radar. It came up last week. And I pre-filled out kind of where we're currently at with Plot Radar. So again, this is a tool that I use to look at either encounters or information that is unresolved and how far away the players are from encountering the specifics around that information and actually resolving it or dealing with it, right? So the closed column is for things that have already been taken care of, things that essentially could have the potential to come back, but they've largely been dealt with and they're not hanging as an outstanding issue or plot element for the players to deal with. So in the closed column, we've got visit Derwith, visit the green or encounter the green treaders, and deal with the lumber camp and Garen Vance, who was mentioned as one of the rival swordsmen that Alton could potentially duel. Now, this is then organized into 5 remaining columns. The next 3, immediate, approaching, and distant, are how far in the game these things are, how far away in the game. Immediate is it's coming up this session. Approaching is it's probably next session. And distant is it's 3 or 4 sessions. We've only got 3 or 4 sessions, so that's the 3 or 4 sessions.
Stuff, yeah.
And honestly, some of these are a little bit blurry, right? You can always move stuff. You know, if something happens that fast forwards the plot, you can move stuff from approaching to immediate, from distant into approaching, etc. So keep in mind that these are not like hard and fixed, like, oh well, they can't deal with that until next session because I put it in my approaching column. That doesn't matter, right? It's not actually an overhead cam. We took a picture and popped it into the overlay. So this was
I wish the overhead cam looked that good.
This is too messy to do with overhead cam. Because we'd have to do it upside down and backwards. So immediate, the things that we have to... so then the final 2 columns are dangling. Dangling means the players have a high level of awareness of this element. They're really like, it's something that they're focused on, that they want to resolve, and I don't know where that fits. I don't know where in the plot that's going to pop up, right? Dormant is something that I'm aware of, that I introduced to them, that they have forgotten about. So it's things that they have encountered that aren't really closed and retired. They haven't necessarily been resolved, but it's no longer in their player awareness, and they might, like, it could just as easily drop off the radar, but I could easily pop it back up and they go, oh, yeah, that's right. So if we look at what's coming up in this next immediate session, they're in the complex of the Darrow. They're in Thurno Pass. They're dealing with the star. One thing that I put on here after I took the screenshot is that there's the room with all the mushrooms, right? We were told, or they were told, that the Darrow gather slaves. They haven't encountered any of them yet. So that potential is kind of ambiguous. Like, I could introduce slaves, or if I feel like I want to get things going and move on to Warwent and the Iron Keep, even though I have that in an approaching column, I could slide that into my immediate game and go, let's get them up to the Iron Keep and get that dealt with. Some other things that are approaching, they need to get like a definitive idea of what the Great Druid's final fate was, right? They know he's dead. They had some potential to learn exactly how he died in Coom Cernant with Derwiths, well, really with Torin, but that didn't really come up that session, which is fine. I'd like them to like get a little bit more information about that, so that's still sitting on plot radar. And then finally, in our kind of last 2 sessions, the Blood Demon or Demons and the Shadow of Lurg is still wreaking chaos, wreaking havoc out in the Ironwood Forest. So that needs to be dealt with. They need to take the Books of Prophecy once they get them from Warwent to the Master's Apprentice, and they need to deal with Garakas, the evil entity inside the Black Cube, right? So that's where we're at with our plot elements. I feel like that's all fairly manageable depending upon kind of like how we do. But you know, as I've said whenever we've brought up plot radar, the great advantage to this is it allows me to look kind of like across all of the various elements and really make a decision about like, oh, okay, how could I connect the Druid's final fate to the Black Cube and dealing with Garakas? Like maybe the Grand Druid is in the Black Cube someplace. Oh, okay, that's an interesting connection that would help tie my plot together and create some cohesion. Likewise, like, okay, what's the Blood Demon doing? Maybe the Blood Demon is fighting a battle up at the Iron Keep, and they get up there, and Warwent is, like viciously trying to fight this thing off, and there's 8 little, because Jay said there's like multiple blood demons now. Like what? We saw it kind of clone itself with the other, like fighting the Minotaurs and stuff like that. So that's a very reasonable thing. Well, now all of a sudden that Warwent encounter turns back into I've combined the blood shadow with this thing, right? Like
Right.
that sounds really interesting to me. So the advantage to this is I take independent plot elements that have some ambiguity to this thing, and I really get to see where the connections are. And that to me is really how you can improvise your way through a Dungeons and Dragons campaign without having to like worry about like how is it going to make sense. Like the biggest danger to improvising stuff is you introduce an element and the players go, what does that have to do with anything? Well, Plot Radar is here to help you tie that thing into everything else to create the spider web that pulls your plot together. So Estelle Castillo, I'm glad that it's helping you. I need to use it more. This is the first time here in this back half of the season that I've actually like written it out like this. Now, I will say what we did do like that first session of Disorganized Play when we came back in September was make the little table tents and move them around into various columns, right? So I literally pulled up a picture on my phone and dropped those things in and then added in whatever's new, right? So let's talk about what is new. So what's dangling out there? Strum has that knot around her wrist. If you get in trouble, pull in case of emergency. Alton's bow, we know, has some magical words on it that he needs to learn.
Right.
I had an interesting idea about that the other night, which is so many times you think of a marquee, a signature magic item as having either like a once daily power where when you say the word Khazat Doom, it creates a small wall of stone that's 10 feet wide or whatever it is, right? Once per day you can do that. Or it just has an always-on power where it fires flaming arrows that do an additional d6. Like those are classic kind of, or it has charges, right? Those are classic kind of like marquee magic, especially magical weapon type of things. But I was thinking about this the other day, specifically Sunday night. I was thinking, what if it had some literally single-use powers, right? So what if he learned words of power that are on the bow, and you'd be like, okay, when you use that, one time you can heal yourself for 3d8. But then the word goes away and it's no longer on the bow. And there's other words so we could say there's 12 words on the bow. You don't know what they all do. But like maybe he learns 3 of them and he could decide which one that he wanted to do. Essentially, he's got 3 potions that are baked into his bow. It's not really game changing. You could decide that it's an action or a bonus action to invoke that word. That wouldn't necessarily be game breaking. Taking away a bonus action does actually have some power in the game. Or taking away a reaction, I feel like has some power. Especially
for a fighter.
Right, exactly. And so that idea that it's got, it's almost like a robe of useful items, right? But except the effects would be more useful than that. So, when he pulls the lantern and the dagger and the tree and the ladder off, like once they're used, they're gone.
Yeah.
And I may do something like that with Alton's bow. I like that idea of... It just feels very different, right? It could have an effect similar to like a potion of heroism. But the great thing is you can divide it up, So a potion of heroism gives you temporary hit points and it gives you like an action surge or whatever it is. Well, I could decide there's 2 words. One gives you temporary hit points and the other one gives you an action surge, right?
Right.
And rather than being something like a potion that you use it and then it's thrown away, the bow still has some value to it. And not only that, but we could create some sort of ritual or process or cost to imbuing new words of power into it or refreshing those words of power. Either way, right? So it becomes more of like a container for various magical effects. It just makes the whole thing a lot more interesting. Harold had to come over and visit. He wants to be on stream. We've got a new Harold emote, and I think we need like 25 subs. Isn't that what you said?
Something like that.
Like 25 to 30 subs, and we'll unlock a Luigi emote. So you heard it here first, folks.
STS Snore.
I love the fact that because the plot radar is up, you can't actually see Harold.
STS Snore. Get the Harold emote.
Yeah, buddy. And I don't think we need the picture up for the rest of this.
Okay.
You can, but it's up to you. Lowstorm's fairy still needs to come up. Strum has a goal of learning to fly. Amy is really fascinated with the spider haunt because apparently that's where the fairies are.
Right.
So we may end up having to put the spider haunt into our plot radar, right? So the journey back to the Tower of the Heavens may have to include a stop at the spider haunt, which is fine. Oh, there was another thing that I didn't put on here that's sort of dangling, right? Which is, I had it in my, I don't know how I missed it. The clicker, they heard about this clicker guy who's the one buying all the wood. That's dangling, and we're going to probably have to incorporate that into at least the information that Warwent has, because I think Warwent probably knows who the clicker is. So those things are dangling. Those are the things that the players have a high awareness of that they really want to deal with. Things that are dormant. The Mamma Mia dream. Mm-hmm. It could come back. It could not come back. Mm-hmm. Quinn, who is the one of the monks who was killed, is theoretically still in Lowstorm's mind, but that element has been completely dropped out of awareness as far as I can tell.
Right.
And then finally, they had the chance to visit the cursed library in the Green Treader territory, and they didn't. And Jay clearly had some ideas for that. I don't have any strong ideas for that, but who's lurking? Dragon.
Well, it's not Shimmickson.
Shimmickson, thanks for subbing up.
Thank you for the sub.
Oh, and a gift sub.
Thanks for all the gift
subs. Bam, 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 bam.
Look at that.
Somebody really wants a Luigi emote. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Whoa.
Almost as cool. Almost as cool got a gift sub.
Yeah, and Rick Bear, who will be here tomorrow, got one. Farquad,
you might as well give me one because I think mine's expired.
Sun Growler, that's great. Savage Scott.
Wow.
Back.
Who gets to decide where these rerolls go? They all go to me, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that Shimmickson? Am I wrong?
Oh, one went to Vanna. Okay. She'll be happy to know that. Thank you so much, Shimmickson. That means a ton. That means a ton.
Really appreciate it.
I will double check the that noise is going to go on for quite a while now.
A long time.
I will double check our points when we're done and see if we have enough for a little Luigi remote. But if I don't even know what we would do for Luigi.
I don't know. I don't know where we're gonna find pictures of Luigi to turn into emotes. So I guess we'll have to have some. I'll have to sit down and take some pictures of my dog, I guess.
Yeah.
Sorry. So many rerolls. Yes. Awesome.
Thank you.
So that's Plot Radar. That's how it works. That's how it applies.
I might just mute that.
That's up to you. Is it going to go like 20 times? Yeah. That's awesome. Now, don't forget. So that's Plot Radar. Like I said, it really, and as Estelle Castillo points out, it really is useful to manage, even if you're managing a linear campaign. Like this adventure is fairly linear, but you can manage the elements in a sandboxy kind of way and move things up and encounter them, or push things out of the way. Combine things is my favorite thing. Like that idea that I literally just had from looking at the sheet of let's have the blood demon attacking the Iron Keep. That sounds fantastic. Mm-hmm. I want to know I want to think about that scene. I want to know what it looks like. I want to see the players' faces when you walk up and they just see and they had kind of like a somewhat of foreshadowing of it when they saw this tree being thrown,
right,
and whatnot. Does the blood demon kill Derwith, the druid inside, who's inside the Ent or whatever? Mm-hmm. Like all that kind of it raises so many interesting questions that have been set up in the previous sessions that I think this view into what's going on in your story really is useful and allows you to manage information in a way that I think other methods don't necessarily achieve. like clocks and fronts and things like that. If you put a clock on the blood shadow of Lurg is going to destroy the forest or kill the druid in a certain amount of time, then you're sort of locked into that result. Right? Like you just keep focusing on like that thing. Whereas you may not see like, oh, okay, it could intersect with Warwent in the Iron Keep, and then what's going on there, right? If you're a Patreon patron, I guess, the template for this is in the Patreon general folder, so you should have access to it. If you're not,
$5 and up, I think you just go to the Iron Keep folder.
Ding! There's a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to put some stuff in there from the previous game. I'm going to try and rewrite the Kumcerna encounter information and the handout so that you could just pull it and use it in your game if you were so inclined. You can see my notes on it. It's not by any means going to be written up as like a full, like, here's a, great evening of Dungeons and Dragons. It's more for like, let's get inspired. Luigi with a French fry. I wish so my brother used to have Labrador retrievers, and you could teach them to hold stuff in their mouth, and then they would wait. And I wish we could do that with Luigi, where he'd hold a fry in his mouth and then eat it.
Could have a picture of
that
him.
will never happen.
Could have a picture of Luigi. I also like Modern Chow's suggestion of just ears and tails. But
Shimmickson says the notifications are done now.
Oh, thank you, Shimmickson. Never apologize for that.
No.
No, that was really awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
And if you were one of those people, I know several of those people are not watching right now, because if they are, shame on you. But
you should not be.
But no, thank you so much. And yeah, well, hopefully, I think that unlocks another emote for us. So.
If you have questions about your game, or running your game or playing your game or anything like that, we're going to tackle them here in the last 15-20 minutes. So please start queuing those things up. That's really all I have to say about Plot Radar. It is, if you're curious about it, I came up with completely independently. There are some episodes. There's a couple episodes on YouTube where I discuss the methodology and how it applies, although we talked about it here. Also, you can just do a Google search for Kanban. And it doesn't really, like, the Kanban boards don't quite deal with, they're not designed to deal with plot and storytelling. They're designed to serve as a project management tool and deal with action items and kind of dependencies.
Wow. We're 8 sub-points away.
8 sub-points.
So yeah, I think we get
we're not putting Shimmickson on the hook.
No. But that got us like 30 points towards where we needed to go.
75% of the way there.
Yeah, we hit over 300 subs with that. So thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's so great.
So there we go. So those are some places that you can look for ideas in how to lay this out and apply it to your game if you're not 100% on how Plot Radar works. We're eventually going to move from Plot Radar into an even more refined version of this that I call the Plot Vice, and the reason I call it the Plot Vice is you're taking anything that's left on your sheet and you're basically like trying to like squeeze it all into one encounter, right? So you're really trying to compress everything into this final boss encounter. How can we resolve as many of these things or incorporate as many of these things as possible? And that's something that I call the Plot Vice. The metaphors don't quite work there. It goes from a radar to a vice, but I don't know what to... Plot microwave? The plot microwave. Let's cook it all together into one seething, bubbling clump of gaming goodness. Seething and bubbling don't really go with goodness, do they?
You are something today.
I'm extra.
You are extra.
I bought a new Iron Man hat. You'll see it next week.
Oh.
So, yeah. Always trolling eBay. Found a steal. $16. Done.
I'm just waiting for the day when you come in with an Iron Man helmet and you just
we'll just
down
do
and
the
just
mask.
do it from there.
I will say that Plot Funnel is a good. The only thing
Plot
is
sieve.
A funnel is already a term used in Dungeon Crawl Classics.
So
A funnel in Dungeon Crawl Classics is you don't run one character, you each run like 4 characters, but they're all like level 0 farmers and like completely like powerless randos.
Yeah.
And so you pour like 20 guys into the dungeon, and then the monsters just start attacking, and you try and attack back with as many of your 20 guys as is possible. And kind of whoever survives levels up.
Right.
But in the meantime, there are like 15 horrid deaths, right? Yeah, funnels are super fun. If you play Dungeon World, look on Drive-Thru RPG. There's a thing called Funnel World. It's funnels for Dungeon World. It's done by Lamp Black and Brimstone, who are the same company that did Servants of the Cinder Queen, which is cool and fun.
Exclamation point DTRPG. Drive-Thru RPG. DTRPG. I'll get you a link.
Interrobang.
Take you there.
DTRPG. So, yes. Yes, as Bondo says, the character you would never think make it does. Although plot thresher. Just grind him up. Although there is like a strategy where you take your guy with the best stats and you put him in the back, and then you let all of your like really, really bad grungy farmers bite the dust and wear the monster down, while your guy with the best stats cowardly cowers in the back and then gives the killing blow, makes the XP. So if that would be cheating and boring, some people.
Thank you, Modern Chow, for the command.
Do you have a question for me, Dom? You have a topic? You were going to say something.
Plot, separate the wheat from the chaff. How's that? That's nice and tight. I don't think I have a question. How are you feeling about wrapping it up in 4 episodes?
Well, I think some of that depends upon how focused the party can stay. I thought that they were really focused last session, but I did kind of end up like having it get away from me a little bit in terms of that noise you hear is not our neighbors playing heavy metal music. It's some sort of construction happening.
I feel like they're literally dragging the building now.
Pulling
it out.
It's like somebody took the big scoop on one and just like dragged it across the cement.
Whoops.
They might be breaking up the cement pad of the foundation next door.
Yeah. Fun times.
I still felt like I had to pay some homage to like, okay, the owls land you, and now you're going to follow this path, and eventually you get to this stream, and then you follow the stream, and there's a bunch of mud, and now you find some footprints, and like those were all great ways to lead them toward the location without the owls just going, bam, you're there. But also I could have saved a bunch of time by just having the owls go, bam, you're there.
Right.
So I may have to deploy that tactic a little bit more often, or give them some like better traveling things. The thing is, like, they're getting to the point where they're no longer like going in random directions. They're going to start going back towards places that they know.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to go back to the Tower of Heavens. Okay, well, we know that's roughly here. Can you help us get there? Yes, I can. So I feel pretty good as long as the finale of dealing with the Books of Prophecy and Garakas and the Black Cube and the Tower of Heavens, all that stuff with the Master's Apprentice, as long as that doesn't have to be 2 sessions, as long as it can be 1 session, I feel pretty good, because I don't know. I think we can have this next session potentially can be, let's explore the remainder of the Darrow Lair and discover some stuff. And then next session would be, let's go see Warwent. And that seems like maybe it'll be a battle, but it also will be a very kind of handy or straightforward, like, you have the star. I would like that. I have the Books of Prophecy. Here you go. By the way, I know some things, and or I can help you travel. So that gives us 2 sessions left then to get from Warwent to the end of the adventure, right? So that gives us one session of kind of cushion to like have a travel episode or a preparing episode, like we're going to go into this big fight. So I really need to think about like, okay, well, does Warwent know about Garakas and the Black Cube, and or is there somebody who can impart wisdom that might foreshadow, here's how you deal with this thing? Or, you know, most appropriately, it's been, and I'm sure the players have forgotten about this completely, because I kind of have in the many weeks here, but it was hinted that Garakas doesn't want the Books of Prophecy to be found, which means there's something in the Books of Prophecy that Garakas does not want revealed. And the most obvious thing would be how to defeat Garakas. And so the information that they get could just be in the Books of Prophecy. The question there is, are the players going to try and read the books? They don't really have the... supposedly, they don't have the training to do it. But that doesn't mean it might not stop them. The other thing that could be interesting is maybe the books imprint on whoever opens them, and then that person has to kind of become, like, learn to become the Master Sage, right?
Right.
The old Greatest American Hero gambit, as I like to call it.
Sure, yeah.
For those of you who remember that show... you know what I'm talking about. For those of you who don't, the premise of The Greatest American Hero was that aliens literally come down and hand off this suit that has all of these superpowers to it. And they just hand it to the first person that they find, which is this like hapless school teacher out in the middle of the desert. And they give him the thing and they're like, this is a gift to your people. Take it and use it, you know, use its power for wisdom or whatever. And he loses the instructions, and the rest of the show is, I didn't know the suit could do this, and how does this work? Yeah. And it has a terrific theme song.
Yeah.
And the only other trivia that I will point out about that show is the guy's name, the main character's name originally was Mr. They changed it to Hanley. Who's the guy who shot Reagan?
Oh,
John.
Oh man, my trivia is
Hinckley. John Hinckley Jr.
John Hinckley. Yeah. No,
yeah. So his name originally was Mr. Hinckley.
Right.
And then John F. Hinckley Jr. John F. I don't remember. John Hinckley Jr. anyhow shot Reagan, and they had to change they changed the name of the character so that it didn't match the guy who shot the president. They changed it from Hinckley to Hanley.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, believe it or not, George isn't home.
Yeah. So I feel pretty good about like how much time that we have in terms of like getting to the finale and having it wrap up. And I think obviously we could have, you know, we could have 2 more sessions and really kind of like expand and explore on some of these things that are dormant or dangling. Like, you know, you could spend an entire episode in the spider haunt, I suppose, and just getting to the spider haunt, traveling through it, negotiating like with the fairies or whatever needs to happen there. But let's not queue ourselves up for that. Right. I mean, that's the trick to running a campaign. And it kind of harkens back to what I said in the first segment of the show, which is there's always more plot to explore. And some of it is plot that I want to get out, whether it's dictated by the module or ideas that I think are cool. And some of it is plot that the players want to get out because they think it's interesting and cool. And that's kind of why we have two columns on Plot Radar. Dangling is, this is a player-driven thing. They really want to see this resolved. And dormant, these are elements that the players aren't aware of, that's DM-driven, that I really would like to... I'd like to ideally incorporate again, but I don't have to, right? So, yeah. Whereas with the player-driven stuff, they're going to be disappointed if it doesn't get paid off, unless you will be like, oh, that's going to go, you know, that'll come up in the next campaign or whatever. But there's always more plot to be spun. So,
William Shakespeare, because you were gifted a sub, now you can send one free reroll to the player of your choice,
or the dungeon master of your choice. Who is technically
a player?
I am not a. I'm a player. Oh boy,
I'm
a player.
So now, obviously,
hey, ho!
He's put himself out of the running for getting a reroll.
No, like I've moved to the top.
Yeah.
That was a killer Tom Cruise impression from Tropic Thunder, you have to admit. Tabletop Tales, glad you could join us again. Good to see you.
Yeah. I would suggest Tom. Well, we'll see. We'll see what William Shakespeare has to say. Moria Balrog says, judging game balance and party strength / ability can be the most difficult aspect of running a campaign.
I think that's, I mean, somewhat that's true. You know, figuring out.
He gives you a reroll.
Oh, thank you. Awesome. Very good. I will use that. Well, come on, iDragon. Help me out. Ugh. Fine. I understand. You're all in the tank for everybody else at the table. I get it. That's fair. I think the balance is a little tricky. But I feel like my biggest challenge as a DM. Oh, Vanna's getting it. Fair enough.
Is Vanna getting it for tonight or for tomorrow?
That is a great question. So, off topic, back onto the calendar of the show, ! Calendar. Tonight is the premiere episode of our Pugmire game, GM'd by Havana Mahoney, and featuring such luminaries as, well, let's see now. I know that Amy is playing a Shih Tzu. Okay.
Yep.
And who else is on board?
So Amy's playing a Shih Tzu named Twilly. Megan Caves is playing a Doberman named Reynolds. Omar Najam is playing a Corgi named Safia, and Kelly Nugent is playing a Vizsla named Pumpkin.
Nice. Very good. iDragon says either game. I think we give it to her tonight, and then away she can't use it against me tomorrow.
Well,
yes.
I will say it's a Vanna choice then. I'll let her know she has one, and then she can choose which game she wants.
Yeah, it's a great cast. I'm looking forward to it. I'm very excited about this Pugmire game. I'm excited to see like Havana like in the DM's chair, kind of her own volition, and doing the playing the adventure that she wants to play, as opposed to like kind of being shoved into the GM's chair by through donations and whatnot, and my jackassery where I'm like, if we raise $17,000, Havana will GM. So I'm very excited about both the cast and the game tonight, and I encourage you to tune in. Now it starts at 6 tonight.
Yeah.
Ooh,
so
3 short hours from now.
Yeah, you East Coasters.
3 short hours from now. I was not giving a white power symbol. 3 short hours from now.
Okay, good. Don't do that.
No, don't do that.
But yeah, 3 short hours from now. So you East Coasters hopefully won't have to watch in your bed.
I mean, no shame.
Yeah, no.
I've certainly.
Then the intro.
I literally watched the game of the Iron Keep Chronicles laying in my hotel bed. So, Shimmickson asked, "Do you think you or the players are interested in exploring what happened to the Grand Druid? I'm not familiar with the module, if that is revealed anyway. It seems beyond the scope of the current campaign, but it interests me." So the fate of the Grand Druid is something that I injected into the campaign, right? That is not in the module as written. I don't think they've been given the mission of finding out what it is. I don't think they want to try and recover him. I don't think they're invested in the Great Druid at all at this point. And that's fine. And it was more of a hook to get them into the adventure than it was the hook for the adventure, if that makes sense, right? They haven't been like, there's not clues for them to collect. There's not like a trail of evidence that they can piece together and figure out.
They're not like detectives. They weren't sent to discover why.
I mean, they were sent to find out why, but it happened 3 years ago, and they haven't been given any kind of like hooks into like you find the mysterious bits of evidence has been like they've seen like a skeletal hand like come down the river. They don't even know whether that was related to the Grand Druid or not, right? So it's been one of those. It's the premise that sent them on the mission, but it is not this adventure. And I feel 100% okay resolving it by somebody tells you X, Y, and Z happened and take that back to your superiors.
Yeah.
It would also be okay, like something that we could incorporate in here. So it's right now that the Grand Druid's final fate is sitting on the approaching column, right? We could change it from a piece of information that is just bestowed upon them to something that they actively like explore. So, I'm glad you asked this question, because I think, given that the spider haunt is this big, like dangling kind of like, Amy really wants to go there because she knows there's fairies there.
Mm-hmm.
I think Havana is really motivated to go there. And, Eric and Kyle are both interested, like amenable to going there.
Sure.
As long as it's part of the mission, right? What if Warwind goes, I don't know what happened to him. All I know is that his grove used to be in the spider haunt. If you want to find out, go there, right? Now, then that gets us to kind of like that fills in our travel session. And if Warwind says, by the way, I can give you a hot air balloon that will take you, directly there or whatever. Great, perfect. So I can short circuit that travel journey, and then they get right into the spider haunt and try and find the Druid's Grove. I think that's terrific, right? That's a great way to bridge those two elements, and also make it part of it's a small side quest. It is not the big quest.
Right.
It doesn't eat a lot of time.
Right.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed. The other thing that I wanted to say back on the campaign balance thing is that for me as a GM, I don't necessarily find creating appropriate encounters for their level to be that challenging. I can always, I tend to eyeball stuff. If stuff is too hard, I turn like regular powers into encounter powers or rechargeable powers, charge encounters that refresh. Etc. Like I can adjust hit points. Things that you can't adjust are armor class. But in general, your armor class is somewhere between 13 and 19. So really, it's hard to go wrong. Like once you start, all you have to be aware of is once it gets over 18, once it gets 18 or higher, it's gonna start getting tough for the players, especially at level 4 or 5 like we are right now. But 1 or 2 points either way. Who cares? Their armor class is nowhere near as important in 5e as it was like in 3.5 or 4. So the actual mechanics of balancing the encounter are not that difficult for me. The hard part for me as a GM, and one of the reasons that I created this tool, is I'm terrible about writing down names, writing down details, juggling them all in my head, keeping up with the plot elements that I have either introduce or need to introduce, need to resolve, need to foreshadow, that sort of stuff, right? So for me, it's much more about like information management is the hard part of running a campaign. Like Eric came in last week and I was literally like, what was the name of that other guy that you were supposed to duel?
Right, yeah.
And he's like, oh, Creighton Sark. And I'm like, I didn't remember which episode I introduced it in. Like, thank God, like all of my episodes are, filmed, because I can go back and watch them if I want to, watch specific scenes if I want to. And generally I rewatch every episode anyhow. I should be taking notes as I do it. I should just be taking notes as I go. But for me, that's the biggest challenge to running a campaign, is not balancing the game mechanics. It's managing the information flow. And it goes to my core philosophy of DMing, which is your job as a DM really is to create obstacles of an appropriate challenge, but then reveal information once they get over those obstacles. Right. And it's the second part that I struggle with, learning the mechanics of the game and how to balance that like right on, right, like spot on, you can adjust that in real time. What you can't adjust in real time is like Estel Castillo is saying, like, I lost the notebook that I had all that stuff written in. What was the name of that Duke that you encountered 4 sessions ago who had the like weird like red leather glove that he wore on one hand, but his other hand was bare? And then everybody sits around and goes, yeah. And half your players don't take notes either. Which, or even worse, is your players take notes better than you do, unless you can like somehow give them a reason to like suck those, share those things with you.
Sure.
It gets tricky. So that's for me as a DM. That's my personal challenge, and a lot of it is because stuff happens that I don't, that I didn't expect. Oh, they're going to get indoctrinated into the Green Treader tribe. The Green Traders have gifts for them.
Mm-hmm.
You get a pipe and a sparkly thing.
Yeah. Oh, good.
They give you herbs, mushrooms. So that's my particular challenge. You may, you know what, you may be a master of information organization, and you might find the mechanics are the tough part. That's gonna get easier. That's what I will tell you. If you have solid plot points and information organization, but you're shaky on your game mechanics, you'll learn the game mechanics through the course of play. If you're like me and you're solid on the game mechanics and you're shaky on the information management, your life doesn't get any better until you start doing something about your information management. Yeah. All right. So let's. So tonight at 6 o'clock, in less than 3 hours now, the Pugmire game is taking place right here on Saving Throw Show. Tell your friends and neighbors. It should be super fun. It's sponsored by Onyx Path, and we're excited to partner with them. And we may potentially even have some goodies for people who tune in. That's all I'm allowed to say about that. Tune in and find out. You can watch our game. Our D&D game right here tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Pacific time, here, the Iron Cube Chronicles. If you have not gotten enough of Amy Vorpal this week, she will be making her 3rd appearance in a row. She was on last night for the finale of the Shadowrun game. She'll be here tonight for the premiere of the Pugmire game, and she'll be back tomorrow night for our D&D game, although she'll be running a little bit late. But that's all fine. She'll be here around 8:30. I figure by that time we'll have gotten through the recap. Very good. Shimmickson, polishing it off. Gotta do it. Really want that emoji. Well, thank you so much for gifting those subs. We really do appreciate it. That's awesome.
And welcome all of you new subs. I know Moria Balrog, I know you're in chat.
Frequent Beef, welcome to the stream. Good to see you.
Really cool dude. Thank you so much. Last Chewy, all you folks that are in here now. So you are new subs to the channel, or maybe you're coming back to it thanks to Shimmickson's generosity. So there's a new emote called STS Snore, which is our Herald emote. He is currently snoring right now.
The Studio Pug.
And then I believe we now have unlocked I think if that was 8, I think we should have unlocked a new emote, and we'll get working on that one. That will be a Luigi emote.
Yes.
So I'm checking now just to make sure. Let's see here.
It should be STS Deer, shouldn't it?
STS Deer.
It's a great suggestion. Estel Castillo. I love it.
They're still
or STS French fries.
Out the update, so
we'll get there. So that's tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Is our D&D game. Friday at 8 o'clock we have another installment of Wild Cards. How far are we into the season? You must be about the same.
We're the same
as we are, huh? So you have 4 episodes left. Is that true? No.
No, we just did 4, so we have 12 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
So we have eight more.
All right. Well, Jordan has a lot of opportunities to send demon minotaurs after you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
It really does.
Is this accurate? Sunday we have Tempting Fate at 5. Is that true?
Sunday we have Tempting Fate at 5. Yes.
This Saturday is the premiere of our new D&D stream.
Yes.
It will be streamed here and on D&D?
Well, it will be. So the Broken Pact. I don't know. We haven't really talked about it.
No, let's talk about it.
So the Broken Pact is coming, and the premiere, the first episode, is this Saturday at 1:00 Pacific time. So pretty good time, I think, for everybody. And it will be streamed only on twitch.tv/DND. It is an official Dungeons and Dragons show.
We are partnering with Wizards of the Coast. Very excited for our first show, partnering with Wizards of the Coast.
And it will also be streamed on twitch.tv/magic. Their magic channel.
Is it magic or is it MTG?
It might be MTG. I'm not sure. And we'll be hosting it, obviously. So if you want to come in and hang out with folks here, or go over to
the D&D channel,
D&D channel, or the Magic channel, or whatever, go and hang out, and keep me company as I moderate the chat over there. But thank you guys. Thanks for you guys really being here and showing up means a lot, and it means when we go to places like D&D and stuff like that we can say, hey, look at these awesome people that we watch our stuff and will come with us and watch what we do. So you guys are a huge part of that. So thank you so much. But yeah, Broken Pact is the new book, Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. Mm-hmm. This is using that book. So we've had some peepers on it. I can't really give you any more specifics until November 9th, I think, when it starts coming out to some retailers and stuff. It comes out in wide release November 20th, but we'll have several episodes done before the book even comes out. So if you're curious as to what Guildmaster's Guide of Ravnica has in store for you,
is going to be like,
definitely tune in. It's the first official connection between D&D and Magic the Gathering. So it's a pretty cool big product, uniting those two worlds together. And it's been a lot of fun. It's GM'd by Ruben Bressler, who does a lot of Magic the Gathering stuff, hosts on Magic Mics and some other Magic podcasts. Cast includes Saving Throw stalwarts Jordan Pridgeon and Gaurav Gulati.
Also Magic the Gathering super nerds.
Literally, guys, before Wildcard starts, every week before Wildcard starts, it takes maybe 5 minutes before they start the conversation and it veers into Magic the Gathering. This was before the show was even a thing, and they would just talk Magic.
Yeah. Jordan and Gaurav have the bona fides.
Yes, absolutely. Also in the cast is Riley Silverman, who's very cool, very awesome, and you've probably seen her on Hyper RPG. She's got a stand-up special actually on. Is it Seed and Spark? I might be getting that wrong. Sorry, Riley. But Riley Silverman, look her up. And Ashlyn Rose, who also does a bunch of the Magic stuffs. And she's super, high profile, I guess you could say. She does a lot of cosplay as well. So she's super cool. You are going to love her character. I guarantee it. And that's about all I can say. So
you can find out more Saturday at 1:00.
Saturday at 1:00. And
Pacific time.
It's not. It's all in D&D. So I don't know what to tell you.
You can come here and we'll be hosting it. But because it's sponsored by Wizards of the Coast, we won't be doing like re-rolls and that sort of like typical stuff that we do on our stream. It's just gonna be a pure game.
Yes.
The whole time.
Yes.
And I think it's it's an exciting new development, and I'm curious to see how the show goes. I'm pumped for it.
I hope people enjoy it. So that's this Saturday. So two big shows premiering this week: Pugmire and the Broken Pact. And always we've got Iron Keep on Wednesdays and Wild Cards on Fridays and Tempting Fate on Sundays. Tempting Fate's going to be Avatar: The Last Airbender game, so that should be fun.
Very good.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. So I want to thank. I want to give a big shout out to Shimmickson for all the
thank you so
donated
much,
subs
Shimmickson.
this
Let me
week.
see if
That
they updated
really, I know you love my dog, and I love my dog, and I'm glad that we both love my dog. He gets too much love the way it is, but I appreciate you signing up for that. That is not expected and very generous. So thank you. I want to give a big shout out to DJ Regular, who is our clip master extraordinaire. If you do not follow him either in our, you can go to our Discord and you can see all of the great clips that DJ Regular has pulled together from basically each and every show. Kind of just some choice moments.
Yes, we did unlock another emote.
Awesome,
so
awesome. We'll figure out what that deer's supposed to look like. And also, the DJ Regular has a Tumblr for this. You can follow him on social media, etc. But it really does tireless work, kind of like pulling those clips out of the show and giving people a little razzle zazzle of what each show is like. So yeah, if you want to continue the conversation, you can join us on Discord. We have both a Disorganized Play and an Iron Keep, and like for every show, we have a Discord as well as general talk and whatnot. So you can join us on the forum over there. Big thanks to all of our mods who help keep the channel safe, friendly, clean, and accessible for everyone. Big thanks to everyone who subbed up or Modern Chow donated some bits. Thank you so much. It is through your support that we help keep the lights on here at Saving Throw Show.
Yeah.
And
if you were gifted a sub, unfortunately it's not September anymore, so I can't give you that.
That's all right.
However, you get a free reroll, and so just
make it count.
DM to me, or whisper or what have you, who you'd like to send that reroll to. Otherwise, William Shakespeare gives their reroll to you, and iDragon gives their reroll to Havana for whichever show she just deems appropriate.
She's gonna need it tonight. I'm pretty sure that's gonna happen. So thanks for joining me for the conversation. I hope you found it enlightening and useful. It certainly brought some ideas to my mind that I didn't have sitting down here. You saw that actually in action. That's been our talk. I hope to see you in 3.5 hours, basically.
Yes.
For the start of the Pugmire show.
2.5
and I definitely hope to see you here tomorrow night for the fourth ultimate episode of this season of the Keep Chronicles.
Quad Ultimate.
Until next time, let's dungeon!
Pretty good, Tom.
I would say that was excellent!